Good morning, class 8. I guess you all are doing good, fine, keeping healthy, disciplined life, respecting your parents, having fun at the same time, and studying as well. So, we are back with SSC. I don't know, I have posted one class yesterday, on the 30th, I guess, 30th of July. I have started my SSC with you guys, and I hope I had been there with you with SSC in class 7, but I don't know. I have just given some info because the teacher is not here right now. So they are stuck somewhere in the lockdown and in some containment zone in Kolkata. So I'm just giving, as I'm here, so I'm just sharing what I know in your book or as much as I can help you. So we were there at the arrival and expansion of the British. Right. So I'll just take it back from where I left. The dual government happened. I was talking to you about in the past actually what happened, so I'm giving you a total basic information about it. So the dual government of Bengal following the Treaty of Allahabad 1765. Robert Clive set up an infamous dual system, I told you, where administration in Bengal, where the company acquired the real power. East India Company took the real power and the administration was rested on the Nawab of Bengal, or double government system. The company got both the Diwani and the Nizamat, the civil administration compensation, whatever was coming in, from two different sources, the Diwani from the Mughal emperor and the Nizamat from the Nawab of Bengal. Both the monies were coming to them. You do the administration, but actual we'll keep hold of the harness. Okay. Then came the subsidiary alliance. The doctrine of subsidiary alliance was introduced by Lord Wellesley. He was the British general in India from 1798 to 1805. This is the actual place when the arrival of the expansion of the British actually took place. Lord Wellesley was the main person. He adopted a policy of non-intervention of the princely states. But he later adopted the policy of forming subsidiary alliances. This policy was to play a major role in the British expansion of India. According to the term of this alliance, Indian rulers were not allowed to have their independent armed force, subsidiary alliance. They were to be protected by the company and had to pay for the subsidiary forces that the company was supposed to maintain for the purpose of this protection. It still happens. Mumbai, the Dons, they call you for protection. They said, we'll take care of you, all your problems will be ours from today. Even the police can't do anything. So for your protection, you have to pay me money. In the jail it happens. They pay money for protection. Ministers pay local gundas, gangs for protection. Police are also paid for protection. Subsidiary forces, an extra force, alliance. For that you have to pay. Services being provided, you have to pay. So East India Company got everything. They wanted to take everything. Slowly they are coming to know what is inside India. But my point. Okay. in the Indian rulers, if the Indian rulers failed to make the payment, then part of the territory was taken away as penalty. Just see the condition, imagine the situation. By the late 18th century, the power of the Maratha Empire had weakened in the Indian subcontinent. India was left with more states open, most small and weak. So many rulers accepted the offer of the protection by Lord Wellesley. He gave that, for catching a fish you have to put the bait. He gave the bait and they took it. As it gave them security against attack by their neighbors. Now what the British also did is, he gave you security. Now to prove that I am securing you, he used to tell the other states attack him. Oh, the British saved me, I have to pay them. Okay, I should pay them. The Nizam of Hyderabad was the first to enter into such an alliance. But there was a tiger there also. Who was that tiger? The tiger of Mysore, Tipu Sultan. He said, I will not do this. He said, I will not take this. But after the British had victory in the 4th Anglo-Mysore War, Mysore was forced to become a subsidiary state. Then came the Nawab of Awadh, subsidiary alliance in 1801. After the 3rd Anglo-Maratha War, the Maratha ruler Baji Rao too also accepted the subsidiary alliance. This was the scheme. The doctrine lapse comes in. What is the doctrine lapse? That if you don't have your own blood son, or in your hereditary, there is no one there in your family line, you will not get your that you won't be able to pass without a natural successor the right to adopt your kin of KIN, the kin of your property or your empire. This was a brainchild hardcore of Lord Dalhousie. The doctrine lapse was introduced to expand British territories in India. They expanded this. They made this system. And let's do this. There are still so much vacant places. There will be people who will not have their own children to take over the empire. Then what if we put this rule? We can confiscate a lot of land. Very big, huge plan. Okay, fine. They agreed to it. Let's put this. And Lord Dalhousie was in charge of this game. The doctrine of the lapse clearly stated that a dependent / subsidiary state would pass into the hands of the British if the ruler died without any natural successor. The right to adopt children was not accepted. Who all were annexed to this? The main person annexed to this was 1857. If we go back a little bit to a date, is during the revolts, 1857. The main person who was accustomed was Satara, Rani of Lakshmi Bai, Rani of Jhansi. Satara, Sambhalpur, Jhansi and Nagpur were annexed under this policy because they knew there is no other one there. Rest had their children. So you see the plan and the workout. This is how they played the game. Okay, I'll come back in the next video.